Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome to the East-West Show. Jack Chow with the East-West Show with Gina TV. A few days ago, my friend Chris Nibby and we did a show to recognize the ecological civilization in China, for which I heard some respond, talking about that we are doing the right thing. And encouraged by that, we went one step further. So today we're doing another show in the category, I call it a sequel, in the category of human behavior towards Mother Nature. What Mother Nature has provided us, we have to respect. So are we handling ourselves, the way of our life, right? Is that sustainable? Is that not? So with that, my friend Chris Nibby and I are sharing our thoughts with you. So by that, welcome to the show. I should say welcome back to the show because we're on sequel 2.
谢谢你老朋友，谢谢你 and good morning and Chao Chan Hao to you.
Very good. I like the Zhao Cheng Hao thing.
Good.
Zhao Cheng Hao, as a matter of fact. Can you do it one more time?
Chao Chan Hao.
Good. Almost there. Okay. Mr. Chris Nibby is a very wonderful filmmaker and known, highly renowned in the circle of Hollywood. Internationally, his film has a huge credit. His Mysterious China series sells the most. That has 19 episodes already in the series. And I believe this one could be your next one on the 20th. Right? Okay, very good. He is also a archivist. When I call him an archivist, I mean that exactly in doing all these films, he dug so much into the archives to provide all the information and necessary elements for his film. By doing that, he made himself almost an archivist, and also by that he makes a huge voice of advocating for doing what's right, prevent doing what's wrong. So today's show, the end of our lifestyle, life way, is near end. We're nearly to be finished, right? In other words, the way we handle ourselves is never sustainable. It's going to kill us. So welcome to the show once again, right? So what do you see here, and do I see here, and my audience is about to see, is that entering the 21st century, can we say there's no land to be explored? There's no water to be discovered. There's nothing new. Can we say that?
Yeah, there is only space left. Because the collapse of past civilizations was always localized. There were always new lands to conquer, new natural resources to plunder, and new people to subjugate. The 21st century is different. There are no new worlds left. We can no longer plunder.
The world is saturated.
Yeah,
right?
We can no longer plunder, conquer, and subjugate anybody. That means we, the people, need to adopt a holistic, organic simplicity. It means a rejection of the ethos of capitalism and the gluttony that defines the consumer society.
Okay. All right. As for definition, I do agree with you that we need to change our lifestyle, though. And what would be more convincing to my audience will be the fact that we want to lay our cards in front of our audiences, see what we are doing, what we have been doing, right? Back to Christopher Columbus. He can discover the whole America because the land was never claimed, right? Of course, there had been the native people there, but officially the land was never claimed. So he can claim the land, the whole land. And there are seas named after lots of folks. Gibraltar he seas, whatever seas, right? All right. So because they claim the sea, the water. Now there's, I believe with the satellite there, we can see the whole globe without an inch of missing. So we can say there's no land there. With the limited land, with limited with limited water, and with limited resources, we are to the end already. And yet the problem is that we are expanding ourselves.
If we continue to live as if the future doesn't matter, our children will face death and destruction. Mankind will vanish from the earth in an act of global suicide.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Remember 2 days ago, when we were on the ecological civilization show, we talked about one fact: the people, evil-minded people, inject the wastewater, heavily chemically wasted wastewater into the ground to be mixed with the groundwater. And for that, if they continue doing so, our kids in the future will have no water to drink.
Correct.
Right?
Because of these things, humans face their greatest existential crisis.
I agree.
I
agree.
And it's ignorance, it's also greed. It has many reasons. But you see, the powers that be, our elites, they replicate the stupidity, arrogance of past and greed of past elites that have vanished. Just remember the demise of the Roman Empire, and for that matter, the British Empire, which ruled the world not long ago. So civilizations come and go. So we should not take for granted our existence
Exactly,
here.
exactly. And it was a while ago this morning while preparing the show, I was out of the studio chatting with a bunch of young men of our people. And we're saying that it looks like that people are kind of like in a gala of the last moment, the last day gala, that kind of thing, because they don't even care, they don't even think about tomorrow, as if this is the last moment of living. So that's being the lifestyle, though, we are really endangering ourselves. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
You see, the elites corrupt politics and poison the ecosystem. It's very easy and very sad. And the victim is we, the people. The longer the corporate elites rules, the longer we, the people, fail to revolt, the less chance we have to survive. It's up to us. Interesting enough, you see, when we think about it, settled or civilized life on Earth is less than 10,000 years old, of which China, as a matter of fact, is in existence 5,000. So, and China, as we noted last time in our ecological civilization show, is a leader in seeing that we cannot continue as we are doing. You see, our particular human social society is but a nanosecond in the universe.
I'm sorry to interrupt you a little bit. We are not talking about a specific country. We're talking about human race as a whole.
That's
right?
true.
Human race has not been given enough attention to the environment versus themselves.
Yeah.
So that's why they are seeing lots of things. For example, I'll give you an easy example, AIDS. 30, 40 years ago, AIDS was never a subject, right? Now AIDS is so prevailing, right? Cancers, well, let's say 50 years ago, I didn't even heard a word of cancer. Now cancer is so prevailing. So we call for it. So it is
I'm
us
sure there's a
we blame.
connection between these
Yes,
sicknesses
exactly.
and
With the pollution that heavy, with the water that heavily polluted, well, you got to be sick. Otherwise, it's not right, right?
You see, civilizations are like the moon. They wax and they wane. They come and they go. We seem to be in an era when old values are dying.
Okay.
Our way of life may prove to be a short and fatal experiment.
Okay, very good. We want to separate the subject into two categories. One, human versus, human style of life versus Mother Nature, what the Mother Nature has provided. And the second category would be human concept. Conceptually, we are corrupting ourselves.
Yes,
Right.
it's all interrelated.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are interrelated.
That's the problem.
But they belong to different categories
Correct.
because they kind of like mess around with natural resources. So they believe they are the master on earth. As a matter of fact, human being is happened to be only one of the species of the world, of the whole world, right? So today, my dear friend, we seem to have touched a very big subject. And could it be environmental? Could it be ecological? Or could it be philosophical? I don't know. Or the best way to say it is all combined, right? So with me, my dear friend Chris Nibby, to whom I owe lots of thanks for going into archives, for putting things together, for sitting here with me, sharing his thoughts. Let's take a short moment now. When we come back, we want to separate these two categories of problems about resources, about conceptual problems. All right, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Hello, dear folks, my lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show. Check Chow, once again having a good time with my good friend Chris Nibby, talking about human behavior. We're talking about our way of life. Is it near end or about to be ended? So, question is such a big issue. I believe that people would have to pay attention to, otherwise, well, it would be too late. So with my friend Chris Nibby, once again, we're having time of sharing. So to your eye though, what have caused this? Is it the nature, the rapacious nature in human? Or is it the industrial civilization that has provided us that, or we're so spoiled that we lost the track of who we are?
I think we lost the track.
Ah,
Since 2001, almost $6 trillion have been spent on wars, and all those wars were lost.
on wars.
On wars. And these are
You
not...
mean U.S. only?
Yes, and these wars initiated by the United States of America in the feeling of national security.
When you say the cost of war being 6 trillion, you're talking about all wars, war spending
Every military activity since 2001.
without a definition of who spent what altogether.
Right.
Human.
No, anything initiated by United States, because all the wars have been initiated by
You're
the
talking
United
about
States.
wars initiated by United States
Right.
that cost the world 6 trillion or cost United 6 trillion?
Cost the United States Treasury $6 million, $6 trillion, almost $6 trillion.
That I have to double check because
You can double check it, you will find it that it is correct.
Per my last check,
Yes,
our war cost was 1.6 trillion.
No,
Not
no,
6
no,
trillion.
no, never.
No?
Wrong. But you see, these are not only the costs which reflect the cost of the war, but this does not cost the cost of the soldiers being maimed and millions of people dead,
Yeah, of course.
and the suffering of the families. So, and the cost also does not reflect the crumbling infrastructure, which everything in the name of national security has been spent and actually wasted. Because, you see, this national security element and terrorism is constantly trumped up by a corrupt media laundromat, which brainwashes we the people and is very successfully at that.
All right. I like those big definitions, but I would more like numbers. Like numbers. I like evidences, right? Now,
The evidence is obvious.
is,
It's almost $6 trillion which the wars have cost.
Sure.
The actual war.
once again, I would like to get into the number to be precise. We're talking about direct costs and the indirect costs. Your number probably includes the indirect cost.
No,
The
it's a direct cost. The indirect cost would be the veterans and all this.
Yeah, the
in addition.
veterans, the wounded, or the fallen soldiers, their families.
Right, that's
and you got to take
indirect.
care of them, of course.
Yes.
Those ethnic or moral spending, right?
Correct.
Those part. So anyway, we're not arguing. Let's stop arguing on the numbers. We're talking about the fact that war does not create anything. Okay, now allow me asking this. In the old days, in the very, very, very early stage of human being, people created wars, people fought because they want food. Am I right? Right.
Yes.
There's you're hungry, I'm hungry, there's a rabbit we're chasing.
Right.
And we hunted the rabbit, and then you keep it or I keep it. You and I regarding this hunted rabbit
Yes.
started a war, right? I kill you, so I get that. You kill me, you get it. So
Right.
that's what exactly war was created, or struggles or fightings were created in the first place. Okay. And nowadays, when you talk about war, do you see still the same nature?
No.
No. Okay,
It's-
why not? I would have to ask you, but you're analysis.
Because it's to plunder resources, to conquer, like in the Middle East, to conquer the oil fields, control the oil fields, or other nebulous fears which are being created because the war machine is in America, it's part of the American economy. The military-industrial complex is a very important component of America.
All right.
An economic
right,
drives
okay,
the
all right.
economy of the country.
If you give a definition to the cause of war,
Yes.
it'll still fall within the ballpark of digital time.
Right.
I have still to. Got a silencing doesn't work. I have to power off it.
Okay.
So this is a new phone. I'm still learning how to play with it. Go ahead.
You see, and then you have the refugee problem. And the refugee problem is another aspect which creates a great problem, especially in Europe, where the population now is overwhelmed by refugees, and that has given the rise to right-wing populist movements which threaten to rip Europe apart. Very dangerous. So there are many side effects, but you see, the Pentagon, the Department of Homeland Security, the US nuclear complex, as well as the rest of the state within a state. We talked about it the other day, called the deep state, including the CIA, the FBI, and many other intelligence agency, and last but not least, those corporations that profit from war, have created and accumulated many trillions of dollars of the national treasury in debt. The US government debt crisis is in addition aggravated by huge private debt.
I intend, as a matter of fact, to talk about human race in general, as a whole, right? You sound that you're criticizing the United States.
No,
only.
I'm criticizing a system.
Yeah, I know, but the United States system.
Yeah.
Right. And there are examples of Europe. There are examples of everywhere. I mean, the human race is degrading themselves. That is the focus for today, rather than criticize a certain country, which I do not agree.
I'm sorry. We have to focus on America because it is the leader of the world, the superpower, and what happens here is affecting everybody else. That's, for example, Wall Street. Wall Street is, anything happening on Wall Street affects the whole world.
That I agree.
So?
But Wall Street does not belong to the United States only.
And Wall Street
Everybody gets a part of it.
And Wall Street is a system of getting rich by purely financial speculation. See? So this is the cause, because if you have you see the established industry logic of expanding an economy and its market was in raising living standards and a certain austerity. You were not having debts. You were not. Now the credit cards, the personal credit is enormous in America, and if people don't pay it, they have to pay 28% up, more than 28% interest.
Yeah, I agree. Credit card is not a United States problem. It's a worldwide problem.
But it started here.
Even in China. Yeah, I know. Everything started here.
Yeah,
Right?
you see?
Okay. Now, we're talking about, once again, my dear friend Chris Nibby, we're talking about whole world with a human being as our
Correct.
subject of interest.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about human being. Right? As how we criticize the United States as a government or whatsoever, we'll do another day. How about that? We will see, we want to see for this show, focusing on the fact that we, the human being, we the people, we the human being, how we squandered resources, how we mistreated ourselves, how we mistreated Mother Nature, how we mistreated
The
limited
greed
resources.
of we the people is universal.
Yeah, okay. I want to talk about it in a universal way. Do you know, or are you aware of the fact that human race are going to be confronted with a food shortage?
Of course.
Food shortage.
Yes, it is said that I think currently we have 7.5 billion people, and it said once we reach 10 billion people, we will have severe food shortages.
Yeah. Okay. And I have done my research in this area. Right now we have 7.3 billion people all over the world. And by motivating everything possible, Mother Nature could produce a quantity of food that will provide 9.5 billion people. Okay, now, and statistics say that by 2050, the total population of the Earth will be 10.3 billion. So you're talking about extra. You're talking about extra, right? So those people will be will be no food.
But already today, millions of people are undernourished and have not enough food.
Okay, that's exactly what I want to talk about, right? Now, every 1 out of 5 children, last time I checked, even in the United States, right, go to bed hungry. Go to bed hungry because
in the United States of
in
America.
the United States of America, all right. We do have, and we have In Los Angeles County, we have 58,000 of homeless, right? They have a dispute, they have an argument. They are not, I heard yesterday over the radio say, hey, they are not our brothers and sisters, right? They are eaters, something like that. Okay, I disagree. But the thing is that they are human beings. When human beings are versus the food, source, natural sources, food is the only thing we have to worry about. All right. And on the other hand, Chris, scientists has discovered the pollinization the butterflies are doing with the
and the bees,
with the bee,
the butterflies,
butterflies, the bees,
yeah,
or then whatever that flies, they do the pollinization, right? The pollinization ability of bees have been,
reduced, greatly
obviously,
reduced.
and this constantly reduced.
Right.
Right. And they did a search of the bee house. They found disorder of the bee house. Bees are supposed to be known to human, the most disciplined species that the queen, the king, whatsoever, the ants whatsoever, they have their strict rules. And they found out the orders are being disrupted. So they no longer do the pollinization as they used to do. This caused the decrease of the food production.
And you know the reason why?
Okay, good.
There's
Go
a
ahead.
giant company called Monsanto, which is pushing pesticides.
All right.
And the pesticides, they kill the weeds, but they also kill the bees.
Yes, you're right.
So that's
That's
the problem.
exactly what I'm talking about. In the bad circle.
It's all interrelated. So, for example, big pharma.
Oh,
and
big
the
pharma is a big
and
thing.
the exploitation of big pharma, or not having free health care. It's all interrelated. You see, it's difficult to just talk about one thing, and because it's like a chain reaction. And there is something basically wrong with the way the world is operating, or we are operating.
Good, good. All right, my dear friends. Looks that we're pushing from different angles, and we end up on the same thing, on the same subject, because all the problems are interrelated. Today, with my friend Chris Neby, we're touching base with you on the very, very, very important subject, which is our human being as a race, as a species on the earth. We really have to be vigilant about we probably are at the end. We're about meeting a dead end. If we do not want to bump into a wall, though, we want to stop something. We better stop something. Okay, let's take a short moment now. We come back to continue by putting all the problems together, see what we can do conceptually, and conceptually what we are doing wrong. So stay with us, please. Hello, dear friends, lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show, a discussion about human race, about our behavior versus Mother Nature versus limited resources. And with me is my good friend, Mr. Chris Neby, an archivist and fighter for justice that in my eye, I respect a lot. Right? So welcome back to the show. Okay. Talking about the fact that we have, number one, crazily increasing population, right? Number two, substantially decrease of grain yield, production. And thirdly, we're talking about naturally with the pollinization done by bees and the butterflies or whatsoever, those bugs that fly are no longer that sufficient, so that it causes a defect, right? Right. And number four, we're talking about big manufacturers such as Monsanto, by producing their pesticides, they are killing the bees, in the meantime killing the germs. Right? Okay, now, altogether, you're talking about a situation that the earth, with Mother Nature given resources can only support 9.5 billion of a population, right? And by year of 2050, we are expected to see a population of 10.3 billion. So 10.3 versus 9.5, though, you're talking about a big gap there. They are the ones supposed to go hungry, they're to die. Right? Now, before that happens, we're seeing something bad already. In Los Angeles, we have 58. On an overall basis, one out of every 5 kids go bed hungry. And yet, food waste. On one hand, we're talking about there's a shortage. And on the other, we waste a lot of food, right? And there is a statistic saying that we Americans waste about 49 to 51% of our food. In other words, had we not been wasting that a lot of food, our food can afford another United States, right? So
Probably.
with all these, I give that back to you. So how we want to handle all these mixed problems? They are interrelated to each other.
That's it. But you see, we have created that situation ourselves by creating a disenfranchised society, and now we almost have 50 million people living below the poverty line in America. We must demilitarize our police and reform the prison system, because this creates an increase in petty criminal activities.
Poverty creates criminality.
Right. So, look, America has 25% of the world's prisoners, even though it only has 5% of the world's population. Now, this is ridiculous.
5%
of the world's prisoners are in American jails, but the population of America only represents 5% of the total population.
I see the numbers. Sorry. So we, a country with 5% of the total population of the global Earth, we have 25% of the criminals
in prison. Yeah. This tells you everything. And we have about close to 50 million people who are supposedly living below the official poverty rate in America.
Yeah. I don't want to produce a very negative picture about our life. I still want to produce something that looks optimistic, right? So by hearing the numbers, I'm really kind of feeling bad. And you also mentioned about the big pharma.
Yeah,
right? And with all the opioid problems,
correct,
which is add up to what we have now, right?
Yeah. We have the opioid crisis. We have an inhuman immigration policies. We have rising suicides of people who are depressed. All these point to a general disillusionment of the people, and sort of a helplessness, and that's why I think it creates a totally disenfranchised society.
As a society, we really talk about where conceptually we're going, right? With that many problems around us, I had by the way, I had this conversation with Dr. Young of Wall Street yesterday. He was with Lehman Brothers on Wall Street for 15 years, and he was with Zhongxing of Hong Kong, in Hong Kong, which is the opponent part to Hong Kong Hang Seng. Right, okay. He was there for 15 years. and he was in China to help the Chinese government to handle their financial crisis during the year of 1990 something,
1990.
when everybody owes everybody money, what they call the triangle debt situation. And this guy, Dr. Yang, came to a conclusion that he says all these problems was caused or is caused or still have been caused by the rapacious nature of us human beings.
Yeah. Obviously.
We are too rapacious. We are too greedy. We want more. We always want more than we deserve.
But it's amazing that those people who are in power don't realize it and are obviously far away from the zeitgeist of the times, and all they do is take the money and run.
Oh, yeah. I don't think they don't know. They are the ones that are the most aware of the problems.
But they are going to drown in the mess which they have created themselves also.
Yeah. Okay, in the long run, in the short run,
Because
it's always the same thing.
Yes.
It's always the same thing, end up that way. There are corrupted officials that ends up in the United States, right? And then, of course, they live a life that they can't expose themselves. They're under different names. They can't go out. They can't use a cell phone whatsoever. Assuming, if you would assume, what a life would that be? Right? That's a hard life. So I would not do that. I would not treat myself with that kind of life. I will live the way I want to live. I live like a human being. So that is the question that is laid upon us for people to choose themselves. And as a media, and by the way, why we do this kind of show, we want to be helpful to people, to the community, to our audiences that, we got a job to do. The job is to save ourselves. By saving you yourselves, we save the human being, we save mankind. So that's the call, right? Do you think so?
Yeah, but you see also, the whole economy is built on credit. Public debt, credit card debt, student loan debt, and the interest rates, if you don't pay them, are more than 28%. So sooner or later, this bubble will burst.
It will.
And the whole financial system is designed by Wall Street that we, the people, can never free themselves from debt. They're always in debt. I mean, it's actually ridiculous when I see in a supermarket that people pay charges of less than $10 with credit cards.
You're right.
It's, I come from a society where we have, where you have cash and you pay with cash. If it is a couple of $100, you use a credit card, but not for supermarket charges. How can you have a relation to the money if you push a credit card for $2 and you don't realize if you do that 10 times, it's $20, and then you look at it and say, wow, I have spent so much. I rather spend cash and then I look in my wallet and it's empty. I know it's empty.
Yeah. The bigger problem is once again in the concept. And I'm talking about our next generation is totally educated on that, right? Is totally educated on that understanding. As long as I hold a credit card, I have supply of money, right? They think one way, they never think, or they seldom think about way of paying back. So you have to pay back, right? So things like that. So for a dollar like myself, I can control. I will probably keep a figure about, about this month I have spent XYZ amount of dollars. I will refrain myself to a certain point. No more, like that kind of thing. To young people, they will go out of hand. So that is the problem.
But this is the system which has perverted the young people. It's not the young people who do this to themselves. It's a system which brings them into this mindset?
The other day I was in bank. I don't want to mention whichever bank. That in talking with the customer representative, she discovered that I have a card in my wallet. She said, "Oh yeah, you have that card." I said, "Yes, I do." And she punched on the computer keys to find out, "Oh, you never used the card for 5 years?" I said, "I never." "Oh, no, you should do it. If you use the card to buy your groceries, though, you have 3% of a kickback. In other words, I have $3 out of 100 every time I spend 100. So that's encouraged, right? That's quite encouragement. And now I have, from that day, I have $25 or $26 accumulated to that account already, which is not bad, right? As long as I can control myself, right? I keep the account paid back. I keep the balance paid back. What if I forget the whole thing, and I pay, in your case, 28% of the interest?
More.
Or more. All right. Okay. Yes, dear friend, my lovely audience. Today we're touching base with you about the way of our life, how we use our natural resources, including our land, our water, and then how we do our money. Those are the serious issues that we would like to share with you to make sure that we want to keep a healthy lifestyle before we go corrupt ourselves, right? So stay with us. We'll be right back, please. Hello, my dear friends, my lovely audiences, my dear fellow Americans. Welcome back to the show, Jack Chow on the East West Show with GNE TV, joined by my friend Chris Nibby. I'm having a good time sharing our thoughts with you about how we want to take a look at what we are doing as human beings to make sure there are areas we can reshape, we can control ourselves, at least by not squandering that much what Mother Nature has given us, what we deserve. Altogether probably will last longer than what shall fall into, which is the end of our lifestyle. That's the subject for today. Back to my friend Chris Nibby, talking about lots of corruptions. I'm not talking about official corruption. I'm talking about human being corruption, right? Of lifestyle corruption, our unsustainable lifestyles. Those are the things together that makes a description of our life today. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you see, the problem is that because we are so obviously clueless, that once the economy crashes, a firestorm will explode across the nation. Of the very nature of the multicultural element of America, basic services will collapse, massive unemployment, trigger social unrest fueled by racism, which is very obvious in America, and the militarized police will respond with force and suspension of civil liberties. And you see the first signs are visible already. You have a crumbling infrastructure. You have, even though the numbers show that unemployment is less than it used to be, but I understand that these numbers are not correct. They are published in order to create a good picture of a basically bankrupt economy.
They're only putting you to sleep.
Yes. And you see, indiscriminate lethal force by the police, a political paralysis and stagnation, an economy built on ever-rising debts, mass shootings. We talked about the opium pandemic. rising suicides.
What is the massive shooting or
The massive
policing having to do with economy?
I think it all goes together because you see frustrated people shoot mass shootings. The boy who shot in Santa Fe in Texas was obviously bullied by his classmates, and so he took the guns from his father and shot his classmates. This is all, you see, this is all also psychologically. If you're losing your job or if you're working for minimum wages and you cannot pay, your credit card is outmaxed. All this frustration then funnels itself into violence. That again criminalizes a society and you land in prison. That's why you have 25% of the world's population in American prisons. This is always interrelated.
Are you saying that all the problems, number one, are interrelated, and number two, they are all related to one thing, money?
Money and greed. Greed and money. This is together. It's always, you follow the money and you'll find the weak spots everywhere. You follow the money, you'll find corruption. You see, and then the unsustainable military expansion. Another thing, gambling. You know, gambling, as has become a desperate tool for economic development and for government revenue. That's why they just allowed gambling now. You can gamble almost on everything here. There is
Okay.
banks, you see how interesting that, for example, banks used to give you interest, right? You put money in a bank, you would get interest. Now you get zero interest. Why would you put
not
any...
zero. 0.
Yeah, okay, but it's ridiculous.
0.03.
Yeah, okay, but that's ridiculous.
0.3%.
Yeah, and then you have fees to pay, so it's better to keep the money in your pocket. But this is totally... This shows you very clearly that established values no longer exist because you used to get very good interest and retired people would save money and then live on the money they had saved. Today, you might as well keep it in your pocket. The whole thing is there seems to be no more security and what do people do if they cannot save their money? And while the money also goes down because the value always goes down, it doesn't increase. Today, Americans now pay 43% of their income for mortgage debt service.
Okay.
This imposes such a high cost for home ownership that it's pricing most of the middle class Americans out of home ownership.
Okay. Let's be more specific.
Yeah.
The 43% of a 100, right, goes to your mortgage payment.
Right.
Okay. Is that 100 before tax or after tax?
Before tax.
Before tax, right? Okay. Now you're talking about more, still more, because for tax you're talking about another 15 to 20% gone already.
Plus the power and water cost, utilities,
everything.
etc.
Utility, whatever, there are expenses, right?
So
okay. We're talking about the money paid up front.
Yeah.
Right? Paid out up front, 15 to 20%, let's say 15. 15% already, so with that 15% added on top of the 43 you were talking about, before you started spend $1, you have 58% of the money gone already.
Right. Even more.
Right? So when $1 comes to you with the 58%, with 58 cents gone already, you're left over with the 42 cents. If my calculation is right.
Maybe less.
Maybe less. So that is exactly why we're crying, why people are going, wandering, why they're homeless or something like that. So It is a very, very, well, not unpleasant, not happy situation. Good.
No, and the media keeps bombarding we the people with celebrity cult and totally ridiculous reporting to divert we the people from the depressing reality that the American dream is doomed. You see, I think people are not aware of the fact because their interest is constantly diverted by the media, which celebrity cult and this and that, and it diverts we the people from the reality of the fact that the American dream is doomed. The warning signs are all around us. Get ready for the ultimate end of the American way of life.
The attention was distressed,
Yes.
right, and was dispersed elsewhere. So people do not no longer pay enough attention to what they do, what they deserve, how they treat themselves, what kind of lifestyle they pick themselves. They kind of like in a dream. That form, in that fact, the word dream is really a dream.
Yeah, you know, Jack, for me it's amazing that we give our money to banks who charge us fees for handling the money and give us nothing. It used to be that you gave money to the bank and you got interest, substantial interest, and you had the feeling, oh, last month I had $10, this month I have 11. Now you have this month's $10 and you have $1 fee, you have $9. It's ridiculous. This is,
Banks
and we have
think-
accepted this.
Banks are thinking that they are not making enough money they deserve.
No, but you see, we, the
Right.
people, have accepted this. We should just stop giving money to the banks. I don't understand how we accept that, and I'm getting hit with fees all the time.
We have to. You don't want to carry all your money in your pocket.
Correct.
You have to use a bank.
Yeah.
So that's why banks make money.
Yeah, okay, but you see, these are warning signs which are all around you. And you better get ready for the ultimate end of the American way of life.
Well, anyway, my dear friends, get to an end of the American way of life. That's a big call, or
Yes.
too big a call. But if you're really in it, though, if you're really thinking the way we think, though, you will probably agree with us that it is about time to think about something, to adopt a different way of life, different lifestyle, right?
It is time, because it's voting time.
Okay, very good. It is
So
time.
get out and vote for honest women and men, because it is not too late. And I repeat, honest women and men.
Okay, all right. And if you are not happy with the system, and you always exercise your right, so June 5th is your chance, your next chance to exercise that right. So go out, exercise your right to vote. And today we wrap up because lots of issues with the open land. I don't think that's we covered everything yet. We will, all right? So thank you, my dear friends, for watching. And to my friend Chris Neby, thank you for sharing.
And thank you to you as well.